All right, team, welcome back, especially into the new year, 2025. And excited to do a lot of focus on Python, AI, automation, quality engineering in those domains. So we'll continue on the same aspects of what we were exploring earlier. We redid a few sessions. We went into a little pre-project mode in between, but now we'll start seeing series of videos and sessions coming along. You can find all the videos that we are doing so far as part of the QA to AI roadmap out here in this link that I just highlighted. And in the previous session, which is the part 1 for a Python API automation, under which we listed a lot of various topics that we'll cover. We did a little bit of basics and how we can use PyRequest for API. Today, we'll be focusing on these two main aspects, team. So there are multiple approaches towards how we could do automating the API side of our tech world. And then, like, primarily, we're talking using Python requests or using mocks or a combination along with PyTest. I've listed down a few nice articles that are more related with our current session, but it is a nice exploration on what you'll see. And I'm also starting to list down some of the open APIs. And since the last time these blogs were written, or I have seen some of these APIs also have commercial model, and that's very interesting. They charge a few pennies per 1,000 API requests, and that's a good commercial model that SaaS providers are able to add using API. So pure API, you send a request and you get a response. So for practice, this is primarily for our practice. These are some nice blog articles that I want to show. I also have created a link to a GitHub repository that I built a few years back, about 5-6 years back, I guess. And it basically has very simply managed Python code team. So that's almost self-explanatory. I also typically use comments in it. But this repo has a collection of about 30, 40 different types of simple Python programs. They go incrementally complex. And it does a lot of, it will give you a lot of perspective towards the basic fundamentals of Python. So what we're building from now on does not exist there yet. And we will add to the same repo as part of the API collection, or we'll do something more. So we did a very basic one in the previous session, team. We're using PyCharm and the latest Python 3.13. That is the version that is the latest as of Jan 6th, that's today. So let's look at what this program is doing, what did we write, what were we trying to do in the previous session, and then we will get on to the next API. But what I'm going to do, team, is 1.5 was just a test. I just want to copy this. I could do Control-C, Control-V as well, I guess. And I'm going to name this 01-API. These are basics. So I'll just say API and basics. What were we trying to do within our API underscore basics? And these are simple print statements just to show variables and how we could do parameterization. But the main code starts from here. So I'm going to delete this portion. I don't think we require it. What were we trying to do out here, and what were we achieving? What do we want to do next? What I want to do next is let's start with a block. 1, we want to parameterize. the inputs for a request. Anytime we're sending a request, there are certain inputs that we need to send based on the schema for that specific web service or API that's built. Every web service or every API is going to have its own schema. And when I say schema, it's a documentation as to does it take a get call, does it take a post call, and so on. And if it is needs some additional data, how do we send it as packet in a JSON format or XML if we look at earlier tech. But JSON is something that we'll explore a lot now. So we need to look at JSON inputs also. How do we send them? We will start looking at things like parameter input for the request, yes, and then output back into parameters again, or variables. I just use parameters, or I can say into analytics. The reason I'm saying analytics team is there's beautiful Python libraries that are existing that will help us graph or plot or give dashboards within it and test. PyTest, in fact, is like a JUnit or TestNG, what we used in Java, and it will help us give a beautiful report as well, based on how many tests we ran it and so on. You can do assertions and all those. So this is what we will do, and then we will externalize data, and then we will also do it for endpoint. Make it work. Sorry, which I also already mentioned earlier. The reason I'm saying multiple endpoints and types of tests. And in this case, we will specifically focus on smoke tests. That's part of our Shakeout jobs. And then regression. The reason I'm using this team is as test engineers, we need to have a very, very strong clarity on what each of them means back into a software testing domain. I'm trying to get everything back into the testing track. Externalize data, externalize input. Once we do that, then we could do a few more. And finally, do a Py framework or test framework for API. So we look at the end user perspective in this case, who's a QA engineer or a UAT or a dev doing unit testing. So later we look at packaging that thing. All of this that we're writing down right now, we're going to try and achieve at a code level. So each one is a code increment. And as we go through, we will also know about how we can, one second, .py. So, or framework. Perfect. Depending on how fast we go, I think we'll cover a lot very soon. But let's look at this. Any questions? Can I just get a quick thumbs up or anything in the chat, in the questions area, that you can hear me okay? Specifically the audio, no background, nothing. Parameters input for a request. So this is the first thing that I want to do in a new program. So this is API basic, how we were able to send quick requests and get responses back and so on. And in this case, there's only one input, but let's parameterize them. Let's explore them. So now again, do control C, control C, control C, 02 API parameter. I'm going a little slow, team. Also the fact that I don't know how many of you are experts already within Python. So I wanted to make sure that it is easy for you to get a basic understanding of what we do. And that's why the first few sessions will go a little slow as the Python is building in, and then we will go incrementally higher or faster. All right, let's do the first one. So our focus is parameterizing things. And these are building blocks. A lot of times, for example, I just want to deviate for a second and go to one of these blocks. Because module, unit test, Python. Look at this. Maybe. When we look through a video, maybe it's slowly developing and building, but when you look through a blog, everything is already built. So you're seeing the end point. I don't know if my network is that slow or some of these websites, but that's fine. We'll get back to the topic. The point I was trying to say is that we have to build it slowly, team. You need to understand each and every aspect of what we're doing. So it becomes very easy for you to practice and then become an expert when you repeat it 2-3 times. All right. So here's the first thing that we're doing today. Parameterize. And inputs is one. Let's do both. And we're also doing output back into analytics. We'll do output back into analytics, but let's do both. First is our API input. So what all go into an input, team? At this level, the minimum thing that goes is a URL. So I'll call it as I, and I'll say IURL equals whatever we given. So at this moment, it is hard-coded to a specific link. Let's look at exploring some links from the documentation. Where is it? Yeah. Let's use Regression itself, team, for now. We'll also do the others. And I want to briefly deviate about documentation, the schema, or how an API is working when a developer finishes building, or even before building, in fact. To build it, they require the standards as to what each one is doing. I think my web is very slow. Is the screen load also taking delay? I think so, maybe. It shouldn't be this slow. There's nothing else running in the background. I've dialed in from my phone. That way the audio should be pretty much standard unless there's a network issue there. All right, front page loaded finally. Okay. So what are we doing? We'll do one get and we'll try and do one post. Okay, that's our intent for now. So like I explained earlier, each of them have their details. So here I have a list of users. So I'm going to make my code shorter. And we know if I say you, maybe one. And okay. All right. Yeah. So we have a base URL. That's also an input. So I'll call it I. I'm using camel case where the first, okay, all characters are lowercase except for the first character from second word onwards is an uppercase. And there is a base URL to which we will append the path. So there is a URL and there's an endpoint. Both of them together become the path. So when we're testing, at least if it is just very rarely you'll see an application or a website with just one API, there'll be multiple APIs. So it's easier for us to parameterize them. So let me copy this link to this and put it in here. So this is the entire path. Now I don't need the entire path because I have this, and my final, I can say I endpoint URL. This is so tough to, I mean, it's just a long one, but this is first one. So I'll say IEP U1. So this is my base URL, this is my path, and this is my endpoint URL. And here it is primarily I base URL plus I path one. That becomes my entire endpoint. So let's do a print of this. And I'm writing a lot of code, and maybe it feels we're progressing slow, but I'll try and keep it as fast as possible. What am I trying to do? Just testing that, and we have one, page 2, this is 1, and point is IEP 1, EPU 1, endpoint 2. Okay, there, perfect. So let's test this. These were something we were trying earlier in the API basic. We are on API parameters now. So what I'm going to do is lose these things, if it's okay. But let me keep it because we need to make a request. And this, look at what we're going to do. In fact, it's an input modularize function task. So anything that we see as a task that we do, like a request that we send along with all of these, we want to put them in a function. So I can send them as inputs and not have the code repeating for me. Now it is only a single one, make a request. So to understand to make a request, first thing that I need to do is my where is going back to my API documentation. There it we capture everything in here. I know. I think I just gave a link to. I need to get that link. Give me a second. It should be easy to find. Right. API for beginners. There we go. Illustrated twice. Definitely network is still. I'll fix it by tomorrow. Luckily, we're not. It's still code and text that we're doing, but there could be a lot of lag. So apologize. All right. The reason I wanted to show is a part of your input is also the method, the action that we're going to point. The endpoint URL that we could generate. Now we're talking about which method is it. So the method, as of now, we are parameterizing in such a way that input method or call. So either the user is sending it as an input so we can picture it out, or we have to parameterize based on. And it should be a very simple call team on how we build requests. Let me just quickly. I method right now, I just hard coded it. We will parameterize yet to para or make it a variable. Now I also need payload. Payload is primarily the data that we send. And in this case, for page 2, there's no payload. But for the post call, when we say create, you'll see that this is my payload. Okay. So how do we use this as a payload when we do the, so this is where we use little data. In fact, let me just get the payload a little later, team. I'm not going to do it right away. The reason being, it will only work, it will be with our post call. We will do next. Payload is none for now. I'm not actually sending the payload, but the method. And then we have the next step, which is make a request. No, request. So these are still input parameters. Make a request would come now, where we're actually sending the requesting. And once the request has gone in, we are able to get a response for it. So it is as simple as getting our first response. So with this request, R1, in here, instead of hard coding my URL, we're going to use the parameterized version. So let's quickly get that. So where do I have it? I didn't run any of this. Let's run this testing or code for now. We still didn't get to testing because we've not verified anything. Okay, let's see. A few things succeeded here. Endpoint is, you see that? I think this is the one, the code that we wrote here, endpoint is. So that worked. Request.get. I think, yeah, this is where it failed because the minimum parameter that it requires is the URL, right? And that is what, I'm sorry, I lost my thoughts for a second. That is what it's trying to mention here, missing one required positional attribute. Now, when it is request.post, we also are sending, and request is the package which is helping us see. So here it's a URL. So I'll just say IEPU1. And if I'm getting any response back, I want to verify the response. So here, verify response. So I will say expected R1 dot. And what all do we get back in as part of the response? You get your status code. You get your didn't I write responses? Okay. You can get the whole body, meta, and you have your overall time that it is taken. So basic details, a lot of information is there that you could do. Cookies, your headers, all of this could be got from your response. At the moment, my interest is to start with the status code test. So all I need to do is on that response that we got, we'll add a status code parameter. So this is R1, I'll say this is R2, and this, for me, in this case, it is a post. What all do we have? So we have a get method request, we have session, then there is my post patch. Yeah, all of them here. There should be a delete also. And delete should be there on top somewhere. But as of now, does this URL handle any of these methods? We don't know. We have the We have the way to send anything that we want. Will the server at the other end accept anything is the other question. So in this case, I'm not only giving my endpoint, but I also need to give any JSON data if it is required. So any JSON data team that we want to send, for example, we're saying payload out here, right? Let me call this a simple J1 for now. And we will send this in a JSON format. Your JSON format, I'm assuming all of you know JSON, but otherwise you will with key value pair. All right. The syntax is pretty much easy as to there is a curved brackets to start with and then to end with, within which our data resides. And the way we're saying the data is there is a E and there's a value to it, comma, another key, another value to it. So all I'm doing is saying there is a name attribute and the value is Morpheus. There's a job attribute and the value is leader. So this becomes my data that I can send as an input to this post request. I'll just say this is J1. So my R1, R2 are two different requests that I'm getting. Now my expected ER1 dot status equals, is it coming back as a number to me? Status underscore course out here. See, API status 200. That is what we printed. But or what if it is string? So I don't know the type. For example, we are not aware it's coming back. That is fine. For now, I'll just say R1 dot status underscore course. Why is ER1 dot status a problem? And this ER1 dot status. I can't say ER1 dot status. It's not a Python thing. I can say underscore status, and that becomes my actual R1 underscore. Let's say my expected is something that also you want to parameterize, and there's a reason I'm doing all of this parameterization team, because I'll tell you. It becomes very easy when we are building the end framework. So at the end, the framework that will come to us will look well finished. And that is why we parameterize everything we can. So maintenance and, in fact, the basic adoption by the team would be much more easier. All right. So what are we trying to do? Quick review. Do I need any of these right now? I'm not doing any status cookies. This is a scenario that we want to do. We'll come back to it. But I think we're good till line 2. There's nothing I want out here. This is a plan. This is what we're trying to do. And at the moment, we just have an input. What are we doing here? Let's print them as well. Print R1. And when we say print R1, it will print everything. But if I say print R1 dot, I can go to specific detail that is coming with. Let's print R1, the whole thing for now. And this is print R2. So did you see that the number of parameters could be varying for us depending on the type of call that we're making? And that is where the challenge will come when we make a function to be able to do it as a call. So it's not hard-coded anymore for us. That's the intent. So we're printing them, we've got this, and my simple test is if A R1 underscore S equals E R1 underscore S, then I print R and I print a simple A. All right, that's a test that I'm doing, and this is only on one request response I'm getting. So I have my base URL path and I generated my endpoint. I'm printing it. My method is get. I have not used this anywhere in the program. But primarily what we want to do is something like this. If method is get to my get function, if post do my post. So with that way, we can do little customization and make our variables work. If my del, like that. So that is what we will get to. But till then, we have to hard code them. And once we start externalizing the parameter, it will be very easy for us to read it from an output, from a different file. It doesn't have to be even stored here. I can have a JSON that holds all this information as inputs and what is expected as output. Then we will test it very easily. What we'll do. Let's run this code. Any inputs, feedback before I hit an execution? Just checking. Not using payload is none because, but I gave J1 here. That's my payload. This should still work. I should be able to do the same for both. Let's do this, then we'll do for the next. So I'm not even calling that there. That's not very. And that is one thing you have to remember, team. Within Python, you do not have to declare. So it gives you a lot of freedom around how you want to do coding. It doesn't add structure you saying this is what you get. So what happened, team? So status underscore code. Okay. So what do you think? What just happened? I got a fail. So basically saying that these two don't match. And why would they not match? What is not correct there? And all I'm looking at is the response code. I don't want to get the entire thing along with response, space, 200, and so on. So even if I do it this way or that way, the end of it, it's a simple verification. But I don't know if it is because, okay, this is R1 dot, it just printed R1 team. It's not R1 dot status code. Let's see what R1 dot status code is. Then we'll know. Okay. So we're printing two things. And this is 200. Let's see this now. And I'll tell you exactly why it's not done. There we go. Okay. So line 35 printed this line. The whole response is just 200. That's all. The only response that we're getting. Line 36 is getting me this 200. Even shorter. There's the status code. All right. And at this point, the reason it failed, I'm assuming, was because I treated it as a text in here and I compared it with a string. So that would be the actual reason that it failed. It got nothing to do with my printing status underscore. And it could not verify that text 200 is same as the number 200. So integer versus the data type thing, that's something you have to be cautious of. Got that, please? Any questions on that? And please practice. I love it when people are able to practice and come back with, your questions and what you felt and the way things are going, team. There's so much to learn. And each thing are not like it's a complex, large Python project. It is just, I'm just, while I'm talking to you, taking the response. This 201 and actually just make this 40. Okay. So this is all for one. So I'm always sending the same things in. Okay. copy this, paste this, and R2, R2, R2 in the status code. I have to uncomment R2. This is R2 and R2. Now, I commented R2. Let me comment line 52. That is gone. Print R2, and I'll also print R2.status in this code. Now, there's also okay. This R1. So much parameterization that it is literally hard coding at the point. But then we structure it nicely into the different data types, tulips, and almost like array kind of work. It'll become much more easy to. And then once we extend it in JSON for CSVs, it'll do a lot more. So what else are we trying to get? There's a type taken and all. We're not interested in that. But there will be what am I looking for? I don't know if this is my JSON data that I will get. But let's see. The request 1 is being sent here. Request 2 is being sent here with J1 body. I'm printing out here, and I'm trying to compare this. What I'm not doing yet is here. I'm saying J2 equals this JSON data. Okay. So this JSON data team, and then this JSON form file that you can send externally as well. So we can explore both of them. All right. Let's do the post as well. So the first one that you'll see should be for get and then the post. Okay, perfect. So response, blah, 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 response 201, 201. This is good. So this should have passed, both should have passed, right? This is passed. One, fail, one. It's easy when there are only 3, 4 URLs. But what if I have 300, 400 endpoints to test? That is how typically large applications or medium to large applications would have to. And the APIM or APIM team will enjoy such very well parameterized steps that make their job easy. So let's explore more. So that's my expected J2. Can we then also do J2? Yeah, I have J2. That's my expected output. And R2 underscore JSON. So here, I'll just say R2 underscore underscore J, I'll say, which is for my JSON data, was R2 dot JSON. And this is a method, in fact. Everything else is a parameter. So I don't know if they're taking additional parameters for us to test, but not in this case at least. So this is R2 fail to, okay, J2. So here, what's my test? I've already done this. Okay, this is for JSON data. Actual. This is just J2 for me. Actual R2 underscore J. Correct? Sorry, that would be a little bit longer than I would like to expect it. No, expected. This is actual. See, that's why just to keep it myself free of all the hassle, I use the first alphabet as it's an actual expected input or output, something like that. In fact, right now we're just saying this, but my O1 equals, sorry, O1 equals pass in this case. That's my output variable, which I can use it anywhere for this case. O1 equals same. And the same goes here. Come on. O2 pass in this case. Wow, lot of linear code. That is where we have to modularize. But we're still playing around, so we're trying to figure out. Okay. J2. Now there'll be a problem team all the time. If you look at, there is the created act that will always be a problem. What if I just want something within J2, like one of the variables that is there? So we will look at how we can go within the JSON data. But in this case, I'm expecting this to fail because the created act will change. The ID also, in fact, will be different. But my test can pass if I say that the name and the job has been added, and oh, sorry, this is output. This is output one. This is output one. But there are multiple outputs coming for each, not just the status code. We also will time it. We'll also get the JSON body out of it. So we're going to do. So let's see. I'm still expecting it to fail, but at least it will give us some more clarity. I'll let it run while I grab some more data. Sorry, come back. Any questions so far, team? Tomorrow we're going to be taking it a little bit more deeper and complex. And as we practice, if you have questions, we can also take them up at the beginning. So everything okay with the get part of it? I wish it was much more well parameterized. And that is what we will do maybe in a CSV file when we catch up tomorrow. But in this case, the reason, let's see, two things. So response 200, that is good. So that's the part one. 201, that is also good. So that is pass two. Why didn't that? Did anyone figure out what the issue is? Why did I get failed to? So where am I printing? Okay, so I mean, I got it. At least I thought I'll hear from the chat. Yes, team. Primarily, line 54, we didn't give this as 201. That is the expected, and that is what even the API documentation says when there is a successful post that we're putting in, we're getting a 201 response. We can try similarly in each of these and make sure that we're able to get there. Tomorrow when we meet, we'll also do a field level. For example, what I mean to say is I'll print J1 and I just want the name under it. So open brackets and name and close brackets. And this is my JSON. JSON key value for name. The name is my key. The value for it is what we're printing. So this is just a test. Now what I'm expecting is pass 1, pass 2, fail 2 JSON data. The JSON data will fail because we've not given anything in there. This is J2. What we're getting is a different value. And that is primarily with both the ID and created at. Because I believe after 1,000 IDs or something, it resets to 0. So each time you send it, you'll get a different ID coming in. That's a random number. So you might, if you want to test it, then just test if it's a number coming within a range. But otherwise, there are other more important ones as parameters that you. There we go. So we could fix the get, call for both. We could not do either of them. The reason being, there is a change in ID and created at. Both these are changing. What we want to test is just name and job. So I know exactly that, for example, here, when I printed JSON key value for name, we could get the exact name. So we are able to pinpoint within the JSON data. And we'll create a JSON file also, team, tomorrow. So what if I want to put everything into a new file? In fact, there are different types of files that we use, but let's test the file j1.json. Okay. And in here, I'm moving it into the same folder that we have the code for now. We will do the organizing later, team. Otherwise, basically for your project, there's a virtual environment that's created, and it tries to keep everything which are other than the code files there. But I'm trying to take this parameter or this input and externalize it in here. So instead of me having to read each time from just a file, I can do it, from the code, I'm able to do it from a file. So that's what we'll do for tomorrow. That's about what I thought, team. We'll do for today. And once we come back tomorrow, we will do a little bit more externalization. We will add functions to be able to do it easily. And multiple endpoints, how do we do it? Using CSV maybe, yeah. And we will do this entire thing in Python, and I'll show you what we can do similarly in Karate as well. All right, everyone, that's it from my side for now. See you tomorrow. Same link, same time. Let me show you. Let me give you the link to the Google Doc, at least for the ones who are in the session. You'll be able to. There is the chat. That's a Google Doc, team. You should be able to at least view it. And it has all the links, including where the videos are. So you should be able to see the videos. I don't know if they're already there, but I'm not putting all the videos on YouTube, and hence you're not getting the update. But check that link out to be able to get those videos there. I think it requires a little scroll and editing on the page, but otherwise it should. Meanwhile, maybe yesterday's and today's I'll put it on YouTube if I can, if it's going to be easier for you to access it, if the one that I shared is. All right, everyone, that's it. If there are no questions, I'll see you tomorrow. And if there are any questions while you practice and all that, bring it up at the beginning of the session so we can handle it. Take care. Bye. Bye.